it's getting it's getting to close, and it's also working with buyers and sellers. The content and the information kind of goes like this. There's a lot that goes the same, and so we may get to both, but we'll probably cover that they just go hand in hand depending on how it goes, and it depends on how the class goes and who's here to be able to participate. Every time I teach this class, it's just a little bit different.
Okay.
I don't think we've met one-on-one though, so this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
I feel like I saw you get introduced at team meeting, and that you worked at a bank previously, but you're pretty new to getting your license. You were in real estate lending, maybe? No, real estate investment lending. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, so I was at a bank and I was a risk analyst team. And so I was analyzing the risk factors for its portfolio, and my specialty was real estate. And
There we
that got me
go.
really interested in real estate. And I decided to become a full-time mom. So after quitting the job, I became an investor, real estate investor. And I really enjoy the, buying and renting process and helping other people when they have questions. So I decided to become a realtor. Yeah,
Excellent. And you're pretty new to Keller Williams, right?
I am. Yeah, I'm really brand new realtor. I think this is my third week.
Oh, you're in the heat of it. Who was the person who brought you to KW?
I just look online and I heard like a KW has a really good training program, so I wanted to check it out. And that time I met with Shani and Suji, and I really love how they explain the culture and things like that. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, and I am having my anniversary this month. So I've been with KW, it'll be 9 years. It was back in 2014. My husband, he would always say, you should, Angie, you should get your real estate license to save us some money, because we had a couple investment properties. And at the time I was working full time for Village Inn. I was a training general manager for their restaurant, and I loved it. I'd been there for 15 years, but I worked about 60 hours a week. And so when he told me to get my license, I was like, well, you go to school. I'm busy. Like, you go do it. So he actually signed up for school, and he came home one day and was like, oh, I signed up for real estate school. I was like, oh, well, if you're going to go to real estate school, like, maybe I want to go. So back then it wasn't online, like some people did, but we actually went to in live classes. And so some people go to like dance class or pottery class, but we went to real estate school together. And I just went for fun. I never planned to get my real estate license. My husband had gotten his license, and he was at another little brokerage, and we were trying to get our offers accepted, but we couldn't even get help on the training side of things. Like, let alone you couldn't even get anyone to say hello to you as you passed him in the hallway, like, hey, can you help me? And they would just ignore you completely. And he went to the state training class, the new agent and ethics course that you have to take.
Yeah.
So he went to that class, and he called me while he was on lunch break, and he said, Angie, I met all these agents, and they're happy. They talk to each other, and they're making money. I think we should go talk to their brokerage. I'm like, okay. So I had never even heard of KW before. And I worked at this restaurant, and I just planned to do some local marketing. So I packed up my pies from the restaurant and brought them out to the office to share and see if I could do some marketing here. And I had gone to school, but I hadn't taken my test or anything. I didn't plan to get my license. But in that meeting, I learned that Keller Williams was voted #2 in training companies across industries worldwide. And what I knew from working at the restaurant is I could train anyone to pour coffee or flip eggs, but I couldn't train them to have integrity. I couldn't train them to hustle or have passion or want to go do that. And I thought, well, heck, if these guys are going to train me, like, I bet I could do this. And it is the training program. That's why I love that you're drawn to KW, is there's so much growth that can happen. Well, it was really interesting. My husband and I went to dinner that night and it was just so clear. I just kept having this feeling like, you just got to do it. And I said, I think I'm supposed to leave the restaurant. And he's like, I actually think you are. And so I went to work the next day and I gave him my notice. And
Mhm.
that was the end of June. I scheduled to take my test and I started Ignite July 1st, 2014.
Oh.
And jumped in. And honestly, it was some of the best things that ever happened for us. But like that first year is challenging, you know, when I talk about you being in the heat of it.
Mm.
So it has been a blessing. I'd say that first 12 months out of the first 12 months in the business, I closed I made about within $10 of what I made at the restaurant. So it was like $56,700.
Mm.
And then the business started to grow though. So in the calendar year 2015, it was more like 107,000. The next year was more like 250,000. The next year is more like 350,000. Where last year our small team closed about 750,000 for gross commission income. We closed about 75 homes. We've personally grown our investment portfolio from 1 duplex and 2 doors into now I have 2 fourplexes and 3 duplexes. So about 14 doors. We just sold 2 properties. So I'm right in the middle of 2 1031 exchanges. So we're seeking out new properties. So it's been like a really good transition to be at KW. And I think the culture is a big deal. You know, not only these classes that are being taught by different agents that are producing agents, but just whenever you need something, there are people who will help you. So the more you can be in the office, the more you talk, the more you put yourself in uncomfortable situations and just go talk to the other agents, they'll share. And the leverage of being here is being in the vicinity of people who are already doing it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're already investing though. What do your guys' investments look like?
If our investment, it's like we have 3 homes. So one of them is a single family home in Harriman, and second one is townhome in Saratoga Spring, and the other one is we are renting out the one of our rooms to our family members. That's what we are
Awesome.
doing. And yeah, we want to grow more, but since interest rate is really high, and then investment, the interest rate for the investment,
Yes.
it's so I
We're in
want
the middle
to.
of it. Like I just made an offer last night and my husband was like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Because
It's awesome though.
we got to do something. Like, did you come to you were at the team meeting that Johnny taught about wealth and just the calculations and
Yeah.
things? It was a little ridiculous. However, it matters though. Like I have to be reminded that it's a long-term play. And it's not that we just have to buy anything. We do have to be smart. We do have to negotiate well. We do have to make sure like we're not massively supplementing. I'm working through that right now because that's another class. But I love,
Awesome though.
I'm gonna grab my water. I'm realizing I left it over there because I thought we were gonna have a different type of a class. So this is so good. Well, we get a one-on-one. It's great. Sometimes the agents get really sad when we only have one person in the class. But what I know is whoever is supposed to be here today to hear what we're teaching is here. And so sometimes the one-on-ones can be so impactful because you do get a little bit higher interaction on stuff in a different way. Sometimes it's hard when I have both people in class and online. So I almost wish it was all one or all the other. It's kind of a hard balance. Well, it's good. It's good to get here and get started. I did not share one of the most important things though. So I want you to so that all sounds really good, right? You're like, oh crap, that's a lot of money, lots of production, things have happened. And I want you to take your phone out and look at the calendar and I want you to find out what 90 days is from the day you started. You said you're 3 weeks in. So I want you to pull out your phone right now and I want you to look at the calendar and I want you to mark and put yourself in what day 90 is. And this is probably one of the most important things that I think we'll learn. This is my opinion. That's totally just an Angieism. Um, that all sounds like life has been wonderful, but day 90 happens for everybody, and it's going to happen to you. So you have to embrace what that looks like. I remember my day 90. It was October 14th, 2014. No, sorry, last Tuesday in October. I don't know what day it was, but it was the last Tuesday in October for 2014. And I'd been in the business. It was like almost 90 days to the day. And I'd had a little bit of success. Somebody let me list their property. I was trying to get it sold. I got a sign call after that, and I went and sold them a duplex somewhere else. I had a little bit of business, but I was working my butt off. Like, I worked 60 hours a week at the restaurant. I was doing at least that much here. Like, I was just doing all the things they talk about, showing up to classes, writing thank you notes, putting people in my database. And I had made a mistake on a contract that day, and an agent called, and she just let me have it. And I seriously just thought, I don't think I can do this job. And I picked my daughter up from school. We got home, it was like 3:00 in the afternoon, and thought, I've got to call my boss and get my job back. I can't believe I quit. That was the stupidest thing you did, Angie. And I walked upstairs and I crawled in bed and I pulled the covers up over my head. And I'm like, I was so mad at God. I was like, you're the one who told me to come here. Like, why did you tell me to do this if I can't do it? If I'm just not good enough for this place? Like, I just don't think I can do it. And I sat there for a minute, and God never lets you sit in it too long. He was like, it was like 5 minutes and so clear. Like, will you quit feeling so sorry for yourself? Just get up and go to work. Fine. So I remember crawling out of bed and going downstairs, and I just started to call people, and people are like, well, who do you call? Just called my friends, just called the people I've been working with, just called, hey, how's it going? Just started calling people. And the interesting thing is, it's never who you call that buys a house. That's a secret to know, that you can make your calls that they talk about 10 or 20 a day. None of them ever buy houses, but there's something about, this is going to sound kind of woo-woo, but there's something about the energy of doing that. I'm down there making these calls, and all of a sudden the phone rings, and it's this guy I had shown every stinky property to in Utah County because he was an investor. And he said, Angie, the smokehouse, it's getting a new roof. Like, let's go put an offer on it. I'm like, oh, okay. So I start putting together an offer. And a few minutes later, this gal that I was helping, she called, and she's like, Angie, I just saw a condo on KSL. Can we go see it? Oh, okay. Literally, you won't even believe it. 5 minutes later, I get a call from a lender, and he says that I'd given him lots of leads that, in the last month. And he said, Angie, I have a qualified buyer standing in front of a house right now. We help them write up an offer. Like, oh my gosh. Okay. And you won't believe it, but we had 5 under contract by the end of that week. And the reason I tell you that is day 90, when they talk about people quitting, it is that day. It freaking sucks, and you'll feel it. And that day 90 is because everything in this business takes 90 days to get results. So you are going to work and work and work, and it's going to be hard, and you're going to work some more, and you're going to be like, I don't want to do this. But you have to remember, at day 90, when you're sitting in front of your dishwasher on the floor crying, I want you to be like, nope, you got to get up and go call people. Because it's the calling of people and that activity, something happens and you will receive. And I promise, every time. So I'm on day 90 from having a low spell in the business. I went to having 0 under contract. And I'm literally hitting day 90 this week. And I stayed up last night and I wrote my 5th offer in like 3 days. Wow. It's just what happens. It's like that business. So 90 days ago, though, I got super intentional about what I was doing. And And I was like, oh, we got to get back to lead generating, because the way you solve all of the problems in this business is to call people. I can promise you, like, it doesn't even matter if you mess up on a contract, just set it aside for a second and go call people. There's some energy of that will solve so much. So that's why you got to mark it on the calendar.
Yeah.
And then you got to remember, you can be like, hear my voice, be like, get up and go call people. And you can come find me. Like, come find me on that day.
Okay.
And you're like, this job sucks. What am I doing?
So hard.
It is hard.
Yeah.
You'll experience your highest highs and your lowest lows all within 5 minutes in this business. It's it's such a butt kicker. You will feel like, oh my gosh, they just canceled. Oh my gosh, like, it's just the positive is you get a little bit more disconnected from the feelings as you get further in the business, and it gets simpler and easier. Like, you just can't compare your first day to somebody else's last day. It gets better. Get through those 90 days and do what they tell you. So I feel like I'm going to mess this stuff up. We're going to try, and maybe if I do this, I don't know if I can make any of this happen. I don't know. We'll keep trying. I don't know. Ritz, I'm not sure why, but I can't get the screen to go forward. Is there something I should do? I don't know if he's listening. I may have waited too long. Maybe. Nope. I don't want to add and I don't want that. Close that. Let's try again. I'm sharing. I feel like I should be able to down here do something with it. Do you see where I'm working? I cannot get it to do anything. We're stuck. I don't want to stop sharing the screen because I'm not sure it's not my computer, so I don't want to mess it up. Oh, I've messed it up. Don't you worry. Now are you little or big? Can you see all of that that's happening?
No, I can say, I just see the screen of your presentation, session 16. That's the only one that I see.
Oh my gosh, what did I do?
Don't worry, Hunter's gonna be there.
You're amazing. Thank you. It all went whoosh, which is fine. But I just need it to go forward a little. Okay. Oh, poor Hunter. He's probably thinking I'm crazy. And same Ritz. Ritz is like the backbone of this place. I do not know how he keeps everything running. All of his stuff always looks so good, so classy.
It is.
So
Thank you.
grateful. Absolutely. Like, so we talked about our day 90. We're going to talk about, I want to ask you, why did you show up today? How many classes have you been in, and what were you hoping to get out of the class today?
Today, I just wanna, since this is my first class about like working with a buyer and seller, I just know about like anything really, anything that I missed, or so actually, so I got a rebuttal and I might have another presentation to one of my potential buyer tomorrow.
Oh, that's awesome. So I don't know what I did to make it look like that, but I did. Oh, and then can you make that look bigger? And then which one do I push?
This is what you're using to control.
Up and down?
Up and down.
He puts up with less technology savvy people. He's the tech guy around here. Amazing. Okay. Well, what's good is, so a couple things I'm going to tell you is that we're going to just skim across the top. And I think you're going to get some good information from it. And there's so many classes that are on buyers. Take every class that you can. Show up, because you know what the cool thing is it all takes time, but knowledge is something no one can take from you. Right? It's one of the most valuable things. And you can lose all of your money, you can lose, we'll say your health, all those things, but the stuff we learn, like, think of how valuable we get to carry that the rest of our life, and nobody can take it. So every minute you're investing in the training is worthwhile. And then, like, you're doing these presentations, get it into action as fast as possible. So good work. Even if all you do is thinking about having to tell your husband or your kid or your mom, someone, before you start this class, think, if I had to teach something from this class to them, you'll listen in a different way. So always have a little bit of accountability that you're going to talk about this class with somebody after. Even if they don't know that that's what's happening, you will participate, and your brain will participate in a different way if you do, and it'll serve you well. The other thing is that I told you about how my business grew.
Yeah.
When it really took off was the second time I took Ignite. I took Ignite the first time when I was new. And it's hard because you have to hear something 6 times to retain it at 75%. So keep coming to the classes because you'll grab some of it, but I wasn't ready to hear all of it. So I took it the second time in September 2015. And I went through the entire course system, and I did all the contacts that they talk about, the thank you notes again. And I got so busy by the end of that Ignite, I just couldn't barely keep up. And it's because I was ready for it. So I would recommend, if your business doesn't grow the way you want it to right away, it's okay. Just keep coming back and keep showing up. The people who show up and do what they tell, like what the trainers and coaches tell them to do, they'll make money. It won't matter what personality you have. It won't matter what demographic background you come from, whether you're man, woman, short, tall, fat, skinny, just keep showing up. So today, what we're going to talk about actually is a lot on communication. And the communication is going to be, I'm going to keep trying to make that, nope, I'm not that tech savvy. We'll keep trying. The communication is going to be the foundation for everything. It's going to be your relationship builder with agents inside our office, agents as you go show, agents as you're negotiating contracts, your buyers, your sellers. And a lot of that is consistent. It's actually the same with each of them. So if you can work on your communication and be very clear with that, and clear, but then we can also talk about like what that means. We want to set expectations. We want to make sure that we're open for people to want to talk to us too. How we set up a showing on a listing matters, because people don't realize we're actually starting our negotiations from that very first phone call. And people want to work with nice, respectful people. So if you're a jerk when you call, or like you call 3 times and then you kind of leave a message like, I'm still trying to get in and I haven't heard back from you, instead of like, hey, I'm sure you're so busy, I'm trying to line up my day, can you help me out, with a cute emoji. Like they want to work with you. So just think about that, because what if you're a little spicy with someone and then your client loves that house and you got to go try and get it for them? So every time you're interacting in this business, no matter whether it's with title people, the lenders, the other agents, realize your name, how you talk to people, how you're interacting with them matters. And people do want to work with nice, respectful people. I also, we'll work through that a little bit, but it's kind of interesting too, because I have an agent that has multiple offers right now, and we're submitting on it, and she literally wants, which I feel so bad, she wants to work with us, because this morning she's like, good morning, Angela, this is Melody, we're getting really close to accepting this offer, unless I should stall it for your clients. And so I sent it out for signatures last night, but I haven't heard back with a like emoji. I'm like, please wait for us. Oh, fun. Yes, our response is at 11, but I will drag my feet for you. I've never met her, but every interaction that we have had has just been like, here, let me see what I can do. But she did just message me and say, any word from your clients, please just feel free to call me. Oh, I just need to forward this to them. I'm so sad because I stayed up late to put that offer together, and then she said she wanted to make it and hasn't signed it.
Oh.
Oh, so sad. They're gonna accept that offer, I'm sure, and we're gonna be out.
Oh.
It'll be fine. Okay, 1 second. Yes, paint material and labor would be $2 paint, $2 square foot, and would need okay, I'm gonna come back to him in a minute. Okay, perfect. All right. Let's see. So we're going to provide good, strong foundation for sustainable relationships. Because that's the other thing is if you've been good with somebody once, when you go to offer on it again, they will work hard to put your offer to the top of the pile. They'll encourage their seller to take your offer. So
Oh.
valuable. We want to set expectations though before we start a transaction and then all the way through it with people. Everyone will feel safer if they know what's happening during the transaction and if they know what's happening next. And people will want to work with you.
Mm.
Okay, let's see if I can get this guy to go again. No, the other way. Okay. There's the difference between functionary and fiduciary. Our fiduciary, this term gets thrown around a lot, but it's our job to act in the best interest of that client. We have to take out what our motivation is. You know, the second commandment we have on our team is we do what is right because it pays well. And somehow that really is the deal. If we also say, save the client, not the deal. Sometimes we might try to hold a deal together and just make it stay together, but we'll lose our client in the meantime because they didn't feel like we were really working in their best interest.
Mm.
And it's kind of hard when you're new because you need every dollar. But I truly believe that a lot of our success has come because we haven't needed the money.
Mm.
Even in the beginning, we could just work. We'd set ourselves up financially to where our debt had been paid off. We were living in a little house. There were things that we could do that it wasn't like I needed to close that deal and it'd be okay if it fell apart. And I believe that you will make more money when that happens. Like, do the right thing, it pays well. A functionary agent is maybe a discount broker. They might open a door, they might fill out a contract, but they may not have an actual fiduciary duty.
Mm.
You know, we just finished some transactions out of state. We sold a property in Florida. And in Florida, they are actually functionary agents, and that's what it is in the state contract. They are not fiduciaries.
Oh.
So weird. I read the contract and about lost my mind.
Oh.
It was weird to me to think that our contract says we will be loyal, obedient, give full disclosure, complete confidentiality, and anything else required by law. Theirs says basically that they will fill out paperwork.
Oh.
I was like, what the crap?
Oh.
I'm so grateful we live in a place where it's different. I'm grateful that we get to work in a place that's different than that. And maybe they could do something different, but I had an agent in Indiana on the second property we sold, and he was amazing. And their contract was fiduciary.
Mm.
So our
Amazing.
job is so valuable. He was such an amazing agent. You know, I paid him 7% and I didn't ask for a referral fee, and I'm so grateful for him.
Wow.
And I know that if we are good agents, that the same will happen for us. Like, so good. Okay, wrong button. I got to figure out which way we're going. Okay, that way. So as we start to talk about, nope, I've got it the wrong way. We're gonna keep on going. I feel like I'm going the wrong way each time. I'm not sure I'm gonna make this happen. You would think I could do this. Because it's coming up again. This just talks about our timeline. You kind of go through different classes, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but there is a basic process that you're going to go through. Beginning by partner with an agent. When you first get started, make sure that you have somebody. You're probably on is it called the Transcend team? Like the brokerage stuff. Just make sure that you have a coach, a mentor, another agent that's helping you along the way. Don't go it alone. It's team up. If you have a good lead, be willing to help share the commission on it, but it's so worth it. 100% of zero is still zero. Realize you're still kind of in an apprenticeship right now. And I think we get done with school and we feel like that we should if there's $10,000 commission, we should earn that. But you know, a doctor doesn't get out of his school and go and make Dr. Wages. He goes into a residency, and you think of how long he had to go to school. We had to go to school 120 hours. We actually have not earned the right to make that $10,000 for that transaction. That's kind of my opinion of it. I feel like the more you're willing to get in and give, the faster you'll leverage and learn more. So be open to that idea, and don't be scared of it. And as you start to partner with some of the agents, as they have extra business, they'll share back. If they have sign calls or they have leads that have shown up from their listings or open houses, if you are sharing with them and they're coaching you, they'll share back. That is the culture of KW. There is just enough for everybody. So be open to it. Ask for help if you need it. Just don't feel like you have to hold it all on your own. And there's a lot of coaching through Susie, and I think they've got some other people in there that mentoring up through.
Yeah, they do.
I love her. I can't even explain. She's
Me
I
too.
love her. She like okay. So as we work on setting an expectation for a buyer, we're going to talk to them about getting pre-approved, finding out what's important to them, what their must-haves are, finding a new home, you'll make an offer, negotiate the terms, go under contract. There's just a lot that kind of goes through that process. My buyer consultation, I set I feel like we're still going the wrong direction. My buyer consults, I had to learn. I learned that if I don't do a good buyer consult, the entire transaction is a hot mess. The whole time I'm being ran ragged because I haven't shared with them what to expect. So I'm constantly having to react to them. So remember how at the beginning today, I even felt like I need to make this text because then I'm not reacting. But if I had waited, I'm sure they would have messaged me and I would have had to then tell them what's next. And I knew I'm like, I know I haven't shared with her what's next. I need to make sure I do that. And then she can be patient. And she sent me a big thumbs up. I'm like, okay, I'm good. Them knowing what's coming down the pipeline. And I also find that this happens if somebody that I'm close to calls me. If we don't sit down and do an expectation meeting, the whole transaction is rough. But we think, oh, we don't have to. That's my mom. Why would I sit down and actually put together why they're hiring me, what I'm doing, this is what it looks like. I'll just go show her a couple houses. You will hate your life later, and they won't have a good experience. It is not a win-win. So if you can sit down and discuss, like, what does it look like? People sometimes don't realize that our buyers and sellers want it. We think people, or there's sometimes a misconception that they don't want to come sit down in the office and they're not going to come for an appointment. They want to. They actually want you to treat them professionally too. Like, still love them, but they want the same great service you would provide someone else. So if you're nervous because you got a lead that I handed you and you would take great care of this lead, do the exact same service for your mom. Do the exact same service for your cousin. Don't short them by being like, sure, let's just go look at houses. Okay. Like, let them come sit down. It sounds like you're doing a buyer consult today, tomorrow, this week, maybe.
Yeah.
So good. I wish we could I wish you were in person.
Me too. Yeah, but I have something to do at 11 o'clock and I have to leave at 11, so I couldn't make it.
No worries. So if you're doing the buy, since it's just me and you have a buyer consult coming up, I think I'm going to just run through kind of, would it be helpful for you if I ran through what a buyer consult looks like for me and we kind of role played it?
Yeah, but mine is gonna be in Korean. Yeah, because
it'll be like way above my head.
So I only practice in Korean, so I don't know how.
Well, and just everybody has their own way, and I'll admit I am pretty like bullet pointy. Let's talk about contracts. One of the places that I think has served me was really studying my contracts. So a lot of people spend a lot of time on their scripts, and scripts are good. But the reality for me is it doesn't work unless I have confidence and I believe what I'm saying. So if I only have 5 minutes and I can choose to study the contract or study the script, I will study the contract, because my confidence comes from my knowledge. Right. And
Yeah.
and because in this business you learn from making mistakes, I didn't study the contracts up front. And I think it's important when you start with those contracts. They are the basis of you being an excellent agent. And so your buyer broker agreement, whether it's in Korean that you're explaining it or in English or whatever that looks like, I want you to take that buyer broker agreement and just start there. And you take paragraph by paragraph, practice teaching what that paragraph says. Okay. So teach it to somebody who does not know real estate. I did it with like a friend of mine when I started, and she was like, I don't get what you're saying. So we had to keep going through this mini paragraph. So I just worked to read one paragraph a day. Don't do the whole contract. Just set a goal. Like, I'm going to learn this one paragraph. So as I describe it to someone else and say, sign here, this is really what it's saying. So like the first section of the buyer broker agreement is just the names. I like it to be, so I just tell them. And so for me, when I go into a buyer consult, we're nice. We talk for a minute, ask them what their motivation is, try to understand what it is they're looking for, their basic needs. Then I actually just go straight into like, hey, do you guys know how real estate agents get paid? Perfect. Well, let's talk about it. And I pull out my buyer broker agreement, and I think the other thing you can do to make yourself look very skilled is learn how to work with it upside down. Okay, that's why if you can learn paragraph by paragraph, if it's upside down, you will look like you've been doing it for years, even if it's your first day. So getting really comfortable. That's why if you can learn what this paragraph says upside down, you can put it in front of them. Be like, great, this is just who's going to be on the contract working with us. This talks about, so how real estate agents, do you know how real estate agents get paid? And they all kind of hum and ha. And I say, well, the good news is sellers actually pay us to bring motivated, qualified buyers. And it depends on how you work with that. I put as per MLS. So I'm like, so whatever and I'm different. You got to go talk to whoever. I know there's a lot of people who are strictly 3%, but I never have people not sign my buyer broker agreement. Like they don't argue with me. I just put whatever the seller is offering, we'll accept his payment in full, whatever you feel like that needs to be. And then I go through the other pieces. I'm like, there's a couple things that happen when we go to work for somebody, and I want to just make sure what those look like. These are the expectations. So the next section down below is the buyer's obligation, what they're supposed to do. And there's 7 things. It says A, B, C, D, E, F. And I can underline them as I go because I've practiced. The first one just says that in communication with all other real estate agents, you tell them that you're already working with an agent. So if you go into a model house, if you go into an open house, if they try to pick you up in the supermarket, you just say, oh, I'm already working with Angie Fischer. The second thing I'm going to need you to do, and this is B, the section B, is it says that you will provide all the documents to the lender that they require. Sound good? Say yes. C talks about due diligence, and we'll go over more due diligence, but this is just saying that it's going to be important. You decide that this is the right house for you. We can help provide some information for you. I can get you good inspectors. I can get you the information for the CC&Rs and the HOA, but it's really going to be your job to determine if this is the right house for you, because everything is different. What's important to everybody is a little different. You know, you might care about the schools, but I don't, my kid's out, right? Or you might care about the churches or other things. So it's important that you go through and really make sure this is the house for you. Now, the next one is D. While you're doing your due diligence, it's super important that you're careful, because this says that if you fall down the stairs or get bit by a dog, you can't sue me and you can't sue Keller Williams.
Mm.
And then E talks about, and I hand them, because if you haven't read your contracts, you don't realize if you do a buyer broker agreement, you're supposed to give them a due diligence checklist and a wire fraud disclosure. So I underline that. This just says the state's telling me I'm supposed to provide these to you as well. And then the last thing that we need to know from you is if you've signed a contract like this with anyone else. They usually will say no. I'm like, okay, great. Now, those are the things you're supposed to do. This next paragraph is what I will do. And this is where it says that I will be loyal, obedient, full disclosure, complete confidentiality, and anything else required by law. And that kind of sounds like a Boy Scout. But you know what? We take that to heart. This is what we call fiduciary duty. And what it means is, as your agent, I am required to work on your behalf. I do what is right for you. And then the next section talks about limited agency. So limited agency is if you work for both a buyer and a seller. And just so you know, buyer, we don't do that on our team. It is legal in Utah, but I can't figure out how I can be loyal, obedient, full disclosure, complete confidentiality, and anything required by law, unless I can make double and work for both. So we just choose not to. Now, I do want to warn you though, there is a time that you guys might be in limited agency. And what that looks like is at Keller Williams here, there's 350 agents. So my broker actually partners on every deal with every agent in the office. And it's likely we're going to go to a house and there's going to be a Keller Williams sign out front. And if we make an offer on that house, my broker is actually considered limited agent. Now the buyer and the seller each have their own agent, but I need to disclose that you might be in a limited spot that way. All that means is he cannot weaken your negotiating power on either side. The good news is he's just keeping us legal and ethical. He's not really in it. So you have your own representation. Now, the positive, and I want you to get excited if we see other Keller Williams signs, is we love Keller Williams agents. They are honest, they're ethical, they're hardworking, they communicate well, and most importantly, they have to see me the next day. So most of the time the transactions go better. They're way easier to negotiate with. They do more repairs for us because they're gonna have to see me in the hallway tomorrow. So they don't wanna be a jerk about it. So we laugh about it and then we go to the next section. So the next section talks about, and this is all just on the buyer broker agreement. The next section talks about professional advice. Now, I'm gonna give you really good market information. I'm gonna negotiate the hell out of the contract, but I am not a home inspector. I'm not an accountant. I'm not an attorney. So if you need professional advice, you need to go to those people for that. Now, the next section talks about mediation. So, you know, if something happens between us and we had to go to court, we both agree that we would go to mediation before we went to court and hired attorneys. And the next section says if we did go to court, the losing party actually pays the attorney fees for both sides. So I just kind of circle a couple of the pieces in there. So they do that so that there's not random dumb lawsuits. And I'm like, and honestly, if we get to that point, if you could just fire me before we get to that point, I'd much rather have that. And we kind of laugh because it's a little bit of a heavy situation. So I'm like, let's not ever get that far. The next one, and I circle the MLS, this just says that I can disclose to the MLS what your house sold for, because we need to put it in the database for all the comparables for appraisers. And the last section here, it says you shouldn't be discriminated against during this transaction. And finally, the very bottom paragraph says that you guys, that they'll accept electronic signatures through this transaction. Does that sound good? Great. And a lot of times, if we, depending on how long we've been in the room or what our piece is, I might say right then, so how do you feel about hiring us? You ready to put us to work? And they may say yes. If I have never met them before, I actually go into the next contract. So I'm like, how does that feel? Does that feel pretty good? Great. And if I'm not ready to ask them to sign right that second, then I go, all right, you guys. So this might be a little much on contracts. But let's say we went out and found the right house today. Would you guys want to know what it would look like to make an offer?
Oh.
And they say yes. And I say,
Good. I
okay.
like it.
So So then they've already told me about kind of what they want. They're in an apartment and they want 4 beds and 3 baths. So I say, okay, so let's just happen to say today we went out and found a house, and it's that perfect house. It's 4 beds, 3 baths. It's at 450,000, and this is the house. Well, I want you to picture that. So as we go through this contract, you can kind of see, well, what would the timelines look like? How would it feel? And the reason I want to go through this contract with you guys is because there's going to be a point in time that we have to hustle and get an offer in. And I want you to be able to click on your cell phone when I sign it, send it to you, and feel really confident about what you're signing. Does that sound good? I'm like, if you guys are up for it, it might be too much. So I usually do a take back. I'm like, if it's too much,
Wow.
we don't have to. We can do this another day. But if you guys want to, I can spend 15 minutes and go over it with you. And they usually say yes. So I'm great. So I just pull out a rep C. So once you memorize, or once you get really comfortable with your buyer broker agreement, your
Yeah.
next contract to study is your rep C.
Mhm.
And just do it 1 paragraph at a time. And study it in a way that you're teaching it. Okay. So that's why you're going to sit down and be like, okay, hubby, or okay, mom, this says, just like I just did it with you, like, this is what this paragraph means. This is what this paragraph means. This is what this paragraph means. And do it 1 paragraph at a time. And it's going to sound so silly, but my daughter was only 10 and I was like so busy just trying to get this business up and going. And you'll laugh, but I literally had a rep C in like the bathroom. So every morning, like I got up and went to use the bathroom, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to study my 1 paragraph. But that was like my place. I knew I'm not starting anything until I study my 1 paragraph. And it'll help.
That's awesome.
For me, the scripts come from the confidence. If I know about something, they'll trust me. And if I'm like, well, I kind of think it means this, please sign. Well, no wonder you can't get signed, because you don't believe. So you got to get to where you believe. And that comes through knowledge. All right. So then I'm like, perfect. So let's say we find that house. And I wish you had a rep C in front of you, because we just walk right through it, but I can walk through for the most part.
I have Lexi.
Perfect. Pull it out. It'll be great.
Yeah.
I love it. You're my kind of girl. It's on paper in a place where you know where it is. Oh, you're gonna be awesome.
Wow, you are like, this is amazing. I think really motivate me to study about Repsi more thorough and everything. Yeah, this is awesome.
You're not the only one. Like, I literally had to make a mistake on something, and I came into the office and asked an agent for help, and he was like, well, did you read the Repsi? And I was like, I was calling people. I felt really dumb. It was on the same contract that other agent wasn't very nice on. Man, you just got to keep trying. Starting new things is hard. So we're going to pull that Repsi out. And so I have it upside down, and I'm like, okay, so let's say we find this house and we're going to make an offer on it. So have you guys heard about earnest money? This first paragraph is about earnest money. Do you know what that is? They say, oh, not really. Okay, great. Well, it's your ante into the game, right? This is how we're going to tell the seller that you're interested in the house. And typically earnest money is about 1% of the purchase price, but I would say a minimum of $3,000. Okay. And we're going to kind of talk about how, if there's more than one offer, how we can make it a little bit more competitive, but plan on about $3,000. Now it says 4 days. So this earnest money is going to come from your checking account, and it'll get deposited at Keller Williams here. And it's due within 4 days of our offer getting accepted. Okay. This is important for you to know that it's a real check, though. It doesn't just sit on my desk. It's actually going to get deposited, and it's best if it comes directly out of your account. So if your parents are going to give it to you or anything like that, make sure they give it to you. You put it in your account, and then you'll write us a check. Now that money stays in our trust account here, and it's my job to help protect it. We're going to go through at what point in time this money becomes non-refundable, but we have to have that within 4 days of us getting this accepted, and say, okay, great. And the next section is just going to show what address it is. The MLS number will include the tax ID number. The section after that is talking about what's included. And this is important because things that are attached to the wall are going to stay. But things that we need to plan on, we're not sure if it's going to stay or not, are things like the refrigerator or the washer or dryer, like the trampoline. And I want to just set the right expectation, because if we go into a vacant house and there's still a fridge there and everything else is gone, it's likely we can get that fridge included. But let's say we go into an occupied house and it's got a beautiful stainless steel, brand new French door refrigerator. It's likely we're not going to get that fridge. So I just want to give you guys a heads up front. And the washer and dryer typically is not included. And then I move to the next section that talks about water. This would be if you were buying a property like with a well or water shares. I'm guessing that the townhouses you guys are looking at are not going to have that. The next section talks about price. This is a really important one. So we have the total purchase price. So I'll circle that section, and we have the way it's broken down. So it's going to have how much you guys have for earnest money, what you have for a down payment, what you have for the loan amount. But in this section, I underline it, it says that you can change the amount of your down payment without asking the seller. And this is an important piece. We can't change our purchase price or our earnest money, but if you have enough money in the bank to show that you can put 20% down, or if you have money in other places, even a 401k account, we want to put it on here. And if later you decide to only put 3.5% down, you can. But the reason it's important is, let's say that seller gets 2 offers and they're both at 300,000, and you guys are putting 20% down and somebody else is only putting 5% down. You look stronger without actually having to offer more money. Okay. So the good news is we want to put as much on here as we can. We always want to be ethical. I don't want to lie about it, but if you could put that much money, we want to put it on here. And then I circle it again. You can always change it. It's not stuck. Does that sound good, guys? And they go, oh, that makes sense. And I also share with them about that same time. That's how earnest money works too. Let's say they get 2 offers at 300,000 and you put down 3,000 and somebody else puts down 10,000. Who looks stronger? Okay. So there's different things we can do to manipulate that. The best offer isn't always the highest price. So I kind of even think of it like a video game, right? Like Mario Brothers, and you got to go along and get as many points as you can. You might not catch all of them, but we want to catch as many as we can to make the best offer possible. And each offer is going to look a little different. What you can do is a little different. So if you only have $1,000 of earnest money, and we're going to do our dangest, we're going to have to catch as many other things as we can to get as many points possible to get our offer accepted. So we turn to the next page. The next page starts to talk about possession, I believe. No, sorry, settlement and closing.
Yes.
I think settlement and closing is at the bottom. The next page goes into title insurance. So the one thing about settlement and possession is I just want you guys to realize when we sign all of our documents, it's still going to take you 24 to 48 hours to get the keys to your house. So just always plan. I'll tell you that now. I'll probably tell you that while we're out looking at houses, but don't schedule the moving truck to come the day we're signing papers, okay? So this is where it goes into the possession as well. This is a place that we can use for negotiating. So let's say we do walk into that house and there's this cute little twin bed and there's bunk beds over here and there's people here. They might need to stay in this house a little longer. And let's say they get 2 offers and you guys are willing to let the seller stay for 7 days and the other people want it immediately. You might be able to have that lever to be able to make your offer more appealing to them. Now, on the flip side, if we walk into a house and it's vacant, if there's 2 offers on the table and one can close in 25 days and the other one is 50, the vacant house wants to close fast. They're paying on that every day. So the way we're going to push the lever on negotiating there is to be fast. So each deal is going to be different, but I kind of want to set you guys up to have the right expectations as we walk through these houses, how that's going to feel. Say, oh, okay, that makes sense. And I'm like, and it depends on your guys' situation. If you guys can't give them 7 days, then we won't. But I kind of want to get you guys thinking because we might be competing. Your price point is really competitive. So I just want you guys to be ready so we can get the right house for you. And then we move on to the next section, which is it home warranty?
Corporation assessment.
Oh, all right. This is HOA stuff. So we're going to ask that the seller pays any past due HOA things. So like if their dog pooped on the lawn and there's a fee, they're responsible to pay that. Now, the second section is an HOA transfer fee. You as the buyer are actually responsible to pay this. Sometimes it can be as little as $100, but I've seen it as upwards of $4,000 to $5,000. So it's important that we just check what that is before we move forward on something. We should have that information every time we're showing a house though, so you'll know. One thing I like to do though, buyer, is I usually will actually mark that we split it between the buyer and seller. If I ask the seller to pay it, they always counter me back and say they're not paying anything. If I say we split it, it's fair. And I'd say 50% of the time they accept it and they don't counter me back. So every time I'm gonna try to split that unless I know it's something different. It's the next section, home warranty.
Is about fees, escrow fee, and HOA fees, cost payment obligation. Yeah.
Awesome. So I think I'm missing somewhere. I think I skipped it. So the title, somewhere in there, it talked about title. So title and escrow, part of this is in Utah, the seller is required to offer title insurance to you. This is going to ensure that there is no liens, encumbrances, property line disputes, that it's a free and clear title for you, which is great news. The bad news is you actually don't own the house. You're getting a loan, so the bank owns the house. So you guys are actually going to have to pay for title insurance for the bank. But don't worry, that's part of those fees that lender's already quoted you. So it's included in the closing costs that they talked about for you. What's the next section?
Then closing, rental deposit, HOA ownership, and utility service and first withholding, confirmation of agency disclosure.
Perfect. That little thing I don't spend a ton of time on, but it just says, this just clarifies who's working for who. And I just skip to the next paragraph.
And title insurance.
That's the one I just did.
And then seller disclosure.
Awesome. So this section, this seller disclosures, this is what the seller is required to give us after we go under contract. Now, I'm going to skip over to the last page and we can kind of talk about this because these are directly how your money's going to go non-refundable. What's cool though, is that you're going to have all of this information to review. So I draw a line down that whole thing. It's like 10 things. It's your HOA information. It's a title report. It's also going to be like a 16-page document that the state requires them to fill out. And in a perfect world, it is going to be full of stuff. It's going to tell us about every roof leak, every flood, every mouse they saw. And in the real world, it's going to be blank. So it's our job to make sure this is really the right house, okay? And on the seller side, what I tell sellers about seller disclosures is fill that sucker out. Put as much as you possibly can on there. I actually also encourage them to do it in pen versus on the computer because information makes buyers feel calm. If it is blank, they are going to be stressed. And then if the inspector finds it on an inspection report, then they're going to think you're lying to them and it makes the transaction very hard. I also like when they fill it out in pen because it makes it human. It's not typed. It doesn't always work that way and it's not always possible, but every last mouse you ever saw 12 years ago, put it on there. I promise you will have better negotiations. They won't negotiate the repairs that are listed on the seller disclosures. It's way better for you and they will be calm. And as a seller, you want your buyer calm. But from a buyer standpoint, I set a different expectation, right? I set the expectation with the buyer, like it's going to be blank. That way, when they get it and it's blank, they're not disappointed. If we tell them it's going to have all of this stuff and then the seller's a butthead and doesn't put anything on there, they'll go, oh, well, that's normal. Angie told us it's going to be blank. Okay. And that's why it's going to be like, we have to plan on it being blank and then it's going to be our job to verify this is the right house. So that leads us into this next section, which is due diligence. We're writing your offer contingent on due diligence. And I actually kind of lined the last page up in this one at the same time. Actually, I just kind of be like, so hang on a second, guys. I'm going to flip to this last page so you can understand the next section. And I take the last page and I just write right on it where it says seller disclosures. Okay, you guys. So typically once we go under contract, we're going to get seller disclosures within 3 days. And I just write 3 days on that line.
Oh.
The next section is due diligence. Okay. And that due diligence starts the minute we go under contract. Okay. And that due diligence time is usually between 7 and 10 days. Now, the cool thing about due diligence is you can cancel for any reason whatsoever during due diligence, and your earnest money is protected if we've written it right in the contract. Okay. So this is really important because that's going to give you a chance to check the seller disclosures and see if there's anything in it that makes you want to cancel. You know, those CC&Rs on HOAs are important because sometimes maybe they won't let you have cats and you have 3. I know they don't let you have chickens. I've read all of them and there's no poultry. My daughter has pet chickens. So, or maybe they let you smoke or don't smoke. These are things that could be deal breakers for you. So it's your job as the buyer to read them. I can't tell you what's important to you. Now, one of the most important things for me during due diligence is going to be the home inspection. But what's even more important is because you can fix an air conditioner, you can fix a water heater, but you know what you can't fix or you can't change is your neighbors. So this is on you guys, but it's so important that you go visit the neighborhood during different times of the day. And I highly recommend you go knock on the neighbors' doors because you can totally get a new air conditioner, but if there is a drug dealer across the street, you're never getting rid of them. If there are crackheads over there, like they're breeding bulldogs, you are screwed. I did not take this advice on my Florida property we just sold. We just sold because we had a horrible neighbor. I'm like so ashamed. I tell my clients this all of the time and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was so bad. So I feel strong now that I'm like, no, we gotta go knock on the neighbor's doors. But that's something that is free, but is so important. And it also sets the expectation, right? Like I helped them here. Like it's okay if the furnace is bad. I'm not saying you have to buy a house if the furnace is bad, but we can fix a furnace. We can fix an air conditioner. We can fix a water heater. We can't fix the best schools. We can't fix the, oh, she's going to kill me. It's this agent that's waiting for me.
Oh, yeah, no worries. Yeah.
It's not even my client. I'm helping a gal that I work with, one of my partners. I just have to ignore it for a second. I got to call Becky. I'm so sorry. Oh, it's killing me. I don't know if I called Jessica or not. I just feel like, or Melissa. I got to call Becky and then I'm going to have Becky call that agent so that if they do try to negotiate something, they can. I'll be fast. In due diligence. All right, so we're in due diligence right now. Due diligence is, so we already talked, that's usually 7 to 10 days, right? And you can cancel for any reason whatsoever during that time frame. So we're going to do things like whatever's important to you. Check the schools out, check the neighborhood out, check the churches out. This is also when we're going to recommend that you get a professional home inspection. And this is important because it's going to be hard for us to negotiate any repairs unless it's from an inspector. So I want you to think about this. Let's say we go to the seller and say, hey, seller, my buyer's cousin's brother's friend says you need a new roof. Or, hey, seller, the inspector says you need a new roof. That looks so different. And let's say even if the seller doesn't fix anything, wouldn't you want to know, right? Because Utah is an as-is state. What that means, it's like a buyer beware. Some places your earnest money is non-refundable from the time you make the offer. But you know how we just said you could cancel for any reason for 10 days? The reason is because you have to verify that you're okay with all of this, right? And maybe we're going to get the seller to do those repairs, but because Utah is an as-is state, they actually don't have to. And then you have to decide if you want to move forward. Now, in general, we'll usually be able to negotiate at least what you paid for your home inspection, which is $500. That's what our goal is. Our team averages about $2,200 in negotiated repairs when we have a professional home inspection, though. So I highly recommend that. We have great people that you can call and check out, but that's when we're going to do that time. And a home inspection typically costs about $500. I mean, you can spend upwards of $1,500 depending on what type of test you want to do, but at least minimally get a basic home inspection for about $500. This is an out-of-pocket expense for you, though, so I want you to plan on that so you have that money available. And like I said, then during our due diligence time, we can negotiate that. And let's say the furnace is bad. We can go in and try and have them either offer a longer warranty, get it fixed and ready to go, whatever that looks like. We have some options there. And if we don't come together and it becomes a deal breaker, your earnest money's protected. So I want you guys to feel safe about that. Now, the next timeline is going to be financing and appraisal. This timeline oh, you know what I missed? Back to due diligence. As we're in due diligence, I want you to think about what I just said. You can cancel for whatever reason, even if you just don't like that the bathroom is yellow for 7 to 10 days, right? Do you think the seller loves that they pulled their house off of the market and that you can cancel for any reason whatsoever? They don't love it, right? So if there's two offers and we're both at $300,000 and one of them has 14 days of due diligence and you guys only have 7, look what just happened. We made you more competitive and it didn't cost you any more money. So I want you guys to be ready that we want to move quickly and do a quick due diligence so that we're an aggressive offer. Does that sound good? I do a little tie down. Does that sound good? They go, okay, yes. But it helps set that expectation that we want to do it quickly. And it makes it better for everyone. So the next section is financing and appraisal. Now this section, and I write it out, is typically 21 to 24 days from the time we go under contract. Now the difference on this is that you can still cancel, but it has to do with financing and appraisal. Okay, so it has to do with something that has to do with your loan. Let's say you lost your job. Let's say interest rates went up. Let's say something crazy happened and it had to do with your loan. You could still cancel during this time frame as long as it had to do with financing and appraisal. Okay, so again, depending on if we're in multiple offers, there's ways we can do this to where we feel really, really confident about our loan. We might ask you, if we're competing, to put a little bit of money non-refundable after the home inspections. Okay, I don't think you have to risk the whole thing, but I'll tell you, last year at this time I guess it was more like April, we were in the heat of things. We were doing things like $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 of non-refundable earnest money upon acceptance. Praise the Lord, we're not in that market right now. Because right now we're able to do 1% of earnest money and maybe $500 or $1,000 would go non-refundable after your inspections. Now, it's my job to protect your guys' earnest money. So don't worry. That's why we're going to get you totally pre-approved. Not only are we going to get you pre-approved, but it's super important you guys get all of your documents, pay stubs, tax stubs, everything into the lender. Because then what we're going to do, we're going to ask that lender to send you through automated underwriting, and we are going to get you guys so solid that you have no problem letting $500 or $1,000 go non-refundable. Does that sound good? So I set that expectation too. Like, if you want to win, you guys, you got to do your part. You go get that in, because I'm going to protect your earnest money, but we have to do this up front. And so the whole time I'm talking to them, even if it's a soft market like we're in, we're still talking like we're competing so that they get in that mindset instead of like, you mean we can't offer $100,000 below and get it? Like, stupid buyers. So, but we just help guide them. And if I do this all the way through the contract, what happens is when we go see a house, they're like, this is the one, get it for us. And we've already talked about all the things as to how to make it a great offer. So see how this buyer appointment set all of the expectations for the entire transaction to go so much smoother. They already knew we were going to do a home inspection. They already knew that we weren't going to get keys right away. They already knew. So there's so much value. It's kind of boring. Like, I get that there's so many people that want to get the first appointment and we're like, tell me about all the bedrooms. And I spend like 5 minutes. I can't sit in that space. I want to get right into like, how are we going to win? What are we
Mm.
going to do to win?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
I hope it's helpful. So, okay.
Yes, so much. Yeah.
So we have financing and appraisal. Now, during this finance and appraisal time, the other thing that's going to happen is even though we got you guys all pre-approved, that lender is going to ask you for more documents and more documents and more documents. It's your job to just keep providing them, okay? Sometimes they even ask you for stupid stuff. Like they always ask me why my last name's different and I have to write a letter and tell them I got married. Like it's silly, but just be prepared. Like getting a loan kind of sucks. The lender is also going to order an appraisal on your house. Okay, so what that happens is an appraiser is going to come out and validate the value of what we offered on the property. An appraiser is a historian. They're going to go back and look within 1 mile of there and say, hey, what has sold in here? Right now we're in a trending down market, so I don't see that we're going to have any issues with appraisal. And we're really lucky that we're not in the market we were last year because people were paying $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 above the appraised value. You're going to get to do your offer contingent on it. So let's say we offer 300,000 on it. And for some reason it appraises at 280. One of three things is going to happen, or maybe a combination. What happens is it does not mean being contingent on appraisal does not mean the seller has to reduce the price. Okay. What it means is your earnest money is protected. So let's say it comes in at 280. Either the seller's going to have to drop the price to 280 to match it. You will have to bring in the cash to 300 to match it, or a combination of the two. Okay. We got to come together because the bank is only saying they're going to loan on that amount. In this market right now, I'm finding that sellers are coming down to appraised value. So I don't see that being an issue, and we'll always run comparables on all the houses we offer. So you'll know ahead of time what we're going into. But right now, the good news is I'm not really seeing that being an issue. Does that sound good? And then after this point in time, this is the drop dead in the water. Your money is non-refundable, no go. After financing and appraisal, if you walk away, the seller's keeping your earnest money, which is only fair. You took their house off of the market for a month and then decided to cancel. So I kind of like, I'm the mom and me comes out and is like, so that's why they keep it. Now, up to that point, you have a lot of leverage. All of these things, though, are so important that you have the right person working on it, because it's how the offer is written as to whether that money is going to be protected or not. And so after going through this, and so I flip back to, so we're going to be contingent on due diligence. We're going to be contingent on financing. We're going to be contingent on appraisal. And then that basically gets us to the end of the contract again. And I'm like, okay, this was a lot to take in, right? You guys, this was a lot. And I want you to know, this is mine to own. Okay. You don't have to know it all. That's why I wanted to go through it, is so that you know I've got it for you. Okay. This is my job. And after going through that, how do you feel about hiring me? You want to work with me?
Yes.
Say yes, right? And then we go back to the buyer broker, we get it signed. I'm like, fantastic.
Wow, this is amazing. Seriously.
It's the best script, right? It is just knowledge. And the knowledge is what, like, when you can talk about it like that, it's, I don't actually think we spend enough time on talking about contracts, but which is fine. It means that I usually win when I'm competing with people. So
well, this is amazing. I think like watch this class like over and over and practice your script.
It is, you hear it, right? That's why you have to keep coming, because each agent that teaches has a different voice, has a different tone, has different ways they're going to say things. And you just need to find an agent that you align with and you can hear your voice in theirs.
Yeah.
Because once you do that, you can start to be authentic and use their words, but be you. And it'll be very important. The more authentic you are to yourself, the more successful you'll be in this business. It's okay to emulate somebody, but don't lose you and your voice in the meantime. But absolutely, you know where all my scripts came from was Clay. So if Clay ever teaches classes, make sure to go to every class. I used to walk behind him in the hallway and just listen to him on the phone. But his classes are so good. So most of my scripts, because I could hear my voice in his, it's the way I might say something or how I might feel, how I I might be a little softer versus like sign the contract.
Mm.
It's just the way he operates. The other thing about using this is it really does set solid expectations. So even though we did not go through all of these, things, we just set time expectations. We just set the timeline expectation for him. And we did all that through the outline really was the contract. And that's really what a buyer wants to know about. Even somebody who's bought or sold a home before wants that, right? They want to know what's going to happen. So one thing we didn't talk about is that's the beginning expectation, but then you want to walk them through it every time you get off the phone with them, every time, like make sure they know what's happening next. This is what we're doing next. Even if nothing is happening, sometimes I use the phrase, hurry up and wait, right? I'm so sorry, we're now in the hurry up and wait stage. We're just waiting. If there is nothing to tell them, still text them. How's it going? How you're feeling? Everything's good on this end. I just want to let you know I'm thinking about you. And some people worry they're over communicating. Don't. Once you're under contract, it is not too much to touch them every day. I might not call them, but send them something, even if it's just a funny emoji or like something that they know you're thinking about it. And the most important day of the week, Fridays. Do not leave Friday till you talk to every single one of your clients. I promise Monday morning will come and it will suck because they'll have had all weekend, even if nothing was happening. So even if Friday I send a quick text that says, hey, just checking in before the weekend. I wanted to let you know I checked with the lender. Everything looks good. There's nothing more for us to do. Have a great weekend. What that does is it closes the door and you get to go enjoy your weekend. So I just run through and make sure I've touched every single person. And I promise you Friday is the most important day that you can do that.
Yeah.
So am I going the wrong way? Nope. I think I am going the wrong way, you guys. I'm never gonna give me a slideshow again. Let's see. We talked about communication ones. The other thing I do in a meeting like that, especially if I'm with a married group, is I ask them, how do you guys want to be communicated with? Do you prefer phone calls, text messages, or emails? Most of them say text message. So then what I do is I say, great. What I'll do is if you guys are okay with a group text message, let's stay on this group text message together. I find that one of the partners communicates more than the other, but they always want to know about what's going on. And I want you guys to know that I might text you, but I am always open for a phone call. I just don't want to interrupt your life. So call me anytime you need. I also want to let you know I communicate with you the way you communicate with me. So if you email me, I will email you back. And so if it's important, call me. It's okay, right? I'll just realize if you text me, I'll probably text you back. I just want you to know kind of how I'm going to communicate back with you. We talked about the market. Part of that is like, as I go through the contract, we can talk about what we're seeing, how much we need, what it looks like. We continue to work on gaining referrals through this. What people also think is, and I know you've got to get out the door, so you just stop me whenever you need to.
No. Yeah.
People always think I'm going to wait until the transaction is done and I've done a good job, and then I'm going to ask them for a referral. The problem is they're talking about what they're doing in their life right now. After they close the house, they're not talking about it the same. So right now is the right time to talk to them about what referrals look like, because they're out talking to the people at work that they're looking at houses, or they're talking to their family. So let them know, like, I just thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You know, it's so important that you realize that my business is based off of referral. And so what I've learned really early in this business, this is a script you could use from Clay. What I learned really early in this business is that it's a word of mouth business. And so I'm hoping I can count on you. If you hear about anyone talking about real estate, that you call and let me know, and hopefully I can help them. And you just talk about that a few times, we just start to set that up. Reviews. Reviews are one of the things that you should do right now. It's one of the most important things that you can do to give yourself credibility, even if you don't have anything in real estate. If you have anybody you've worked with in the past that knows your work ethic, your integrity, the way you operate, have them write you a review on Google. So set up a Google page for yourself. And So the first couple of things you do, set up that Google page and then have them write those reviews. Even if you don't have a Google page, have them write it up for you, and you can put it into your buyer packet of like, this person says this, that like people, the reviews are the most important thing that's in a buyer packet or a seller packet. And even online, it's probably not on your checklist right now, right this second, but get your profiles put together pretty quickly. I think Susie and Shoni have some outlines to how to do that. You can just copy and paste. And if you took a day and set up a profile on Realtor, a profile on Zillow, a profile, and you can just copy and paste the one that comes from command, but put pictures on all of those places and set them up. And then you can actually put your 5 reviews that you got from your friends or your past employers on there. Then when someone Googles your name, you'll look like you have a presence. Okay. And then you can, if you don't get to that, and if I give you one more thing to do before that, make sure you have an email signature and make sure your picture is on the MLS. Those things make me crazy. You can get both. Ask Susie or somebody. Susie's so good at command. She always is like, I'd be like, I want to do this. She's like, I just do it in command. She's so good at, she makes it so simple. Continue to work on those reviews though. If you ask someone for a review, I do find it helpful to actually send them a link to fill it out. And I do at the end of the day, most of our reviews, if you Google Team Fischer Homes, are going to be for our classes that we teach. After I get done, I always like, if we provided value, would you share some information on Google? And I just say so my review text says, a kind word goes a long way on Google. Would you mind helping us out? And then I just text that out to them. Okay, that's the end of the class. What are your ahas?
So many. I think I really learned a lot today, how to present. And I think you are really good at like respect your client. And yeah, I think they will feel like they are very respected, and you are so informative and so clear about what you're explaining to them too. And I think it's so important because it looks like you're on top of everything. Yeah.
Right?
That's
So
amazing.
if you spend energy on it, like practice those, like really study them, and then practice presenting it to your kid. Or you just have little kids though, right?
Yeah, he's 5, but I just talked to my husband and he said he's gonna give me like 90 minutes every day so I can practice with him.
I think it's so good. And
like the time.
I went to family reunion my first year, and that's Diana Kokoska said, if you want to look like you know what you're doing, do it upside down. And that was a game changer for me. That tip, I was 6 months into the business when I heard it, and I was like, I need to do that. And I just sat and practiced. The second thing is, you're going to be surprised if you record yourself doing it. It's going to feel really awkward. You might not even have to re-watch it, but you will, you'll be way more intentional about what you're saying when you're being recorded. And so it will leverage your practice time. And you will also find you do weird things. Like if you go back and watch it, you'll realize you're clicking your pen, you're playing with your necklace, you're playing with your hair, you're like a bouncer, whatever it is. You don't know that, like, I'm very much with my hands, I have to be careful. But if you record it too, it's so valuable to you that it's leveraged time. So take the time to record after you start to practice a little bit, then take some time and record it.
Thank you. I will do
You're
that.
welcome.
Well,
I am so, remember when I said who was supposed to be here would be here? I always feel like, and I 100% believe the people who show up are the ones that are rewarded.
Yeah, I'm worried.
Hard work wins when talent doesn't show up. So we don't always have to be the most talented person that is in the room, but when we just keep showing up and we work hard, we will make more money. I shouldn't get all spicy. We'll make more money than the rest of them. Like, I might not drive the fanciest car, but man, I will have more houses. No.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you so much.
These slides this stuff is also in your book. You'll be able to pull it. It's the questions you would ask. These are the soft questions. who'll be living there, how many adults, what kind of house, all of those things. Okay. Another time we can run through, because I think we're out of time. When people tell me they want the world, that's the other thing I go into is like, what's more important when they're like, I would like 4 beds, 3 baths, 2-car garage, 1/4 acre in Provo, and my budget's 300. Oh my God. So then I start to go, awesome, that's great. So what's more important? What if we found a 4-bedroom and 3 bath, but it didn't have a garage? Now we need a garage. I'm like, okay, so would you be willing to do a 3-bed, 2 bath and a garage? So I start to just play what's more important, and I can see it in their eyes, like how they whittle down to like, these are actually the non-negotiables. So this is a softer one. Becky, my partner's way better at this stuff. I get bored and can't go through it. So it makes me crazy. There's a whole bunch of stuff we can go through, but we'll just appreciate that we got to do a buyer consult.
Oh, I wish I had more time today.
Well,
So
why don't I keep it?
good.
I'll record for 15 more minutes if you have to go, and I'll stay on and I'll share some tips here. Does that sound good? And then you can come back in and rewatch it.
Yes, let me.
You do whatever you got to do there. I'll just keep talking and don't think I'm ignoring you. Okay. That way we're leveraging time. So the buyer needs, we kind of talked about what's more important. We want to do this up front. When I set up my hot sheets, or the listing alerts, I set them up pretty broad, but I actually send them to me. You can send them to the buyer too. But what I found is when I send the buyer junk, they want to see the junk. So I actually filter them, have them come to me, and anything that is good enough to show, then I send. That way I'm not having to show bad properties. So it's not as leveraged as what Susie might do. She's so good with command. However, then I can be very intentional about what I'm showing and that it's good stuff. We talked about what was non-negotiables. I'm not going to get into that stuff. Hang on. Am I going the wrong way? Yep. Showing homes. Okay, so now we're to the point where we're showing homes. We talked a little bit about setting up appointments. Read the MLS listing completely before you set up the appointment. So in the listing, it may already say we're not showing until Saturday, and then you call on Wednesday and you kind of look dumb. So take the time to read the listing completely, because it'll give you a lot of information. And also there's different ways to set up showings. So if it's through Aligned, or if you need to call the agent or do showing time. Now, this is another place where I believe you're an apprentice. The more activity you get, the better it'll be. Your first year in real estate, there's nothing that is wasteful. So I know there's a lot of people who will pay agents to show homes, but if it were me, or when I was new, I would show for free. And I know that's like, well, I don't want to waste my time. You're not wasting your time. You're learning how to set up showings. You're learning how to print off the MLS. You're learning how to work with the Superbox. You're learning how to show the house, and it's not your client, so you're not screwing it up. Like all of these things. And so it sounds weird, but I would be willing to show some houses for free. The second thing that happens is when you're willing to show for free, you're the one in relationship with that agent. So when they have an open house, they call you first. Right? So you might be willing to give your time or do it for cheap. Be like, I'll show any house for $10. That covers your gas cost, right? But then you're the one that's out there working, and the more you are doing this, the better you're going to get. And you have to go through some of those. If not, if you just wait and you're with everybody else that's charging $25 and sitting on Facebook waiting for someone to ask, you can beat them to the game and start to just go out and meet agents and say, hey, let me text you my number. I'm right here. When you need something, call me, text me. And then you can text them once a week and say, hey, I've got time Saturday. Do you want me to show any of your buyers? It'll serve you well your first year. So also being able to line out how long that's going to be. It usually takes me 30 minutes on the homes, and I try to overlap them, but you can work with Google and line them out. I'm not super good at it. I do try not to show more than 3 to 5 homes at the most. I've shown 12 in a day, and it was a hot mess. They were in town and you just show all 12. They don't even remember what's what anymore. And it's really challenging. You'll go back to all those houses. So instead, if they send you 12 houses to look at, you're going to say, this is awesome. What are your top 3? And sit silent and let them tell you. Don't feel bad. you're serving them and you're serving their best interest, not letting them look at houses that are not their top 3. They don't need to see everything to know it's not right. They'll know. And then maybe they're like, oh, but I love them all. I'm like, okay, pick 5. And then just sit quiet, let them pick the 5. Be knowledgeable about the neighborhoods. If you're on, you should have the MLS app, whether you're on as an agent or just even a client, but as an agent, you can use the MLS app. It is awesome, and it has a GPS on it. I love to drive neighborhoods and open my MLS app and see what's on the market around me, so I get an idea of how much that price point would be. It helps me learn the neighborhoods I want to work in. It helps me learn my environment of that. This side of Provo is actually going to be 400,000, and this over here, when I drove into this neighborhood, it's more like 500,000, because you can click on the pictures, see the pictures, kind of drive around. I also do this when I have listing leads. I drive into the neighborhood, open my MLS app, and just see what's around me. They're looking at that. It's their neighbors, so you better understand their neighbors. And you can see it from the computer, but there's nothing like driving to a house to see there's 3 cars on the lawn. There's nothing like driving there to see that it's right next to the freeway and you didn't realize it because the pictures were taken like this. So take the time once a week to just be out driving. Take different routes home so you can see things in a different way instead of always the same place you've always driven. Practice, just practice the driving. I personally do not have people in my car when I show. I did it first, and it was just too stressful for me to have them with me. I have too much going on. I'm trying to find the address. I'm not a very good driver. And I just tell them it's a safety thing. I'm like, hey, sorry guys, it's actually just a safety rule. We don't have anyone drive together on our team. So these are the houses we're gonna see. This is the order we're gonna go in. I will meet you there. And I don't drive them. It makes my life way better. And it gives them a chance to have quiet time too. After each house, they can really discuss it the way they need to as a family. And so it serves us both. I also have calls to return and other things that are happening. When showing houses too, just be really careful. This is just agent safety. If the house is vacant, wait for the clients. I know you want to go in and turn on all the lights and be ready for them. Don't. Just wait. They're fine. Don't go in alone ever. People are watching us all the time. They watch the real estate agent pull up to the house that has a sign. They see that you're alone. They know the house is vacant. It's a dangerous business that we're in, and we can absolutely do our part to protect ourselves. Some people carry guns. I'm not a gun carrier, but I do have a really good link I can send you for a taser that is awesome. Looks like a flashlight. So I just carry it with me a lot of the times if I haven't met the clients or if I don't feel good about where I'm going. So, and I just keep it in my car. It just charges on a little charger, and it just looks like a little pink flashlight, but I like it. It sounds probably worse than it really is, but it like, I think it was $12 on Amazon. It was awesome. Your fiduciary is to actually also, we missed this part. There we go. Make sure you're not totally ignoring what's happening in the house. You do want to let them experience as they're experiencing the house for them. So as I walk in, I have my MLS form with me, and you want to practice where things are. You're not going to memorize everything on every house, but what you want to practice is how to get the information off the MLS sheet quickly. What year was it built? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? Does it have AC? Does it have a sprinkler system? Is the fridge included? Like some of these basic things. I let them go first, and I don't tell them my opinion about the house. I just tell them facts. Okay. If I do see something like a water leak, I want to point it out. If I do see something that is an issue, I do. But I also learned early on, I walked into a house and I was like, ooh, dark cabinets. And she was like, oh, I actually love dark cabinets. And I was like, oh. So instead, my question is, so how do you feel about the dark cabinets? Let them experience it. What do you think of that fireplace? How do you guys feel about the space for the dining room table? Like, ask them about how they're going to live in the space. Hey, does this backyard work for you? How important is it that this is fully fenced back here? And I talk about what I see in the area. So if I'm in the kitchen, I'll look at my sheet and be like, and the refrigerator is included. As we walk back on this floor, we're going to find 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Downstairs, so I just kind of walk through. When we go outside, I'm like, and there's a full sprinkler system and it's fully fenced. So I talk about what's happening as far as data that's on the sheet, but I try to hang back and let them do it. Same thing with smells. Like and again, I let them experience it. Like, so what do you guys think? Any issues there? I think I might smell cat. I don't know how you guys feel about that. So I don't want to totally ignore it. I just don't want to lead and make them have let them have their feeling about it. I had a house that totally smelled like smoke, and I was like, we need to go. And we literally were standing in the living room and they're like, this is the one. I'm like, this one? Okay. Like, so.
Oh, I should go.
Okay, just log off. You're good. I'll try and keep running through this.
Thank you so
We already
much.
talked. You're welcome. I hope it was valuable. You know, each one of these classes is so different. It's so different than the last one I taught on the same subject. So it's good. I'm glad we have it. Good. We just talked about safety. See, I didn't even know these were coming up, but they're all things. We just did real play. That's good. Ahas. You're really not missing anything. I think we're good. Provide. Yep. We already talked about all this. We're good. Don't discriminate. Win-win, no deal. All this gets, because it's your reputation. I want to live my life in such a way people want to do business with me. So don't go like honking your horn at everybody, being crazy. Do the right thing, all the right stuff. I think we're done. I say we just call it. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was. Okay. Thank you so much, Angie.
Yes, okay. Thank you. Good luck on your appointments. You got this.
Okay. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.